From Vox Markets, I'm Francesca Morgan, and joining me today, I have Martin Higginson. He's the CEO of Immotion Group. Thanks for joining me today, Martin.
Yeah, thanks very much for having me on.
Now, Immotion's had a really pleasing set of results out today. You've booked 9.4 million of revenues and an EBITDA profit of 900,000. Now, the effects of COVID caused the lockdown of many sites through which the company's core business, that's LBE, as we'll refer to it, which is location-based entertainment, functioned. So, to have achieved these results when this was the situation just a year or so ago, it's really successful. How would you characterize the set of results then?
Well, I think first of all, we need to sort of frame the landscape really. I mean, obviously when the pandemic hit, 2020, it was really all about survival. And for us, it was how do we get to the other side? Obviously, as we went into 2021, we were still very, very much in the throes of the pandemic. Certainly for the first half of 21, we were, had many locations still closed down. So it really was about the sort of second half, and we saw our locations really sort of bounce back with a vengeance in the second half of the year, and to have recorded revenues of sort of, just shy of 9.5 million and an EBITDA of, 900,000 pounds, I think is real testament to the team and their perseverance and endurance really to sort of see it through to the other side. So we are very, very pleased. Most of all, we're pleased to sort of have got to the other side, and then to have got to the other side and be making a profit and have a great future ahead of us. Yeah, I think it's a great position to be in.
So you say that the recovery was more weighted in the second half. How would you describe the rate of recovery? Was it what you expected in terms of pace?
I think, to be honest, it was much, much quicker than we expected. Clearly when the pandemic was on and we were in the throes of all this, we questioned to ourselves, would anybody ever wear a VR headset again? In public, would people actually go on our motion platforms? All of these questions went through our head. But as things started to ebb, and certainly in the second half of 2021, we really saw it bounce back with a vengeance. I think people were so frustrated and pent up, wanted to get out and wanted to visit different locations, that we actually benefited from that. But we didn't, we sort of, was it going to be a flash in the pan? Was this just a spike? And I think as we've moved into 2022, we've really gained a lot more confidence in the robustness of our business model. As we've gone into 2022, we've seen great revenues in the first quarter. And just looking at the sort of Easter trading in April, we're going to be sort of north of 800,000 pounds just on LBE revenue for this month. So I think it really does underpin what a solid business model this is and what a bright future we have.
And now the company seems to have reconsidered its strategy when it comes to the other two parts of your business. Is the bounce back and growth of the LBE business what's driven your decision to spin out these two divisions? That's the Home-Based Entertainment and the Uvisan. Have I pronounced that correctly? Those two divisions.
Yeah, we've got the Home-Based Entertainment business and Uvisan, so you've absolutely pronounced it correctly. But both of these businesses were set up in the middle of sort of 2020, very much as a hedge towards our position against the pandemic. None of us knew what the future was going to hold at that stage. And as a CEO and as a board, we have a duty of care, not only to sort of try and hedge our position and try and look at all the different sort of options, but also to mentally keep the team together. So we launched these two businesses. Both businesses have succeeded in their own rights. We've seen the HBE business grow in revenue to 2.4 million of revenue last year. Uvisan's performed exceptionally well, but now is time for us to really focus back in on our core business. And it's time that those two businesses, we look for external finance and look to spin them out of Immotion. Our core business was always the locations. These were done as a hedge. So now it's time, let's move on. Let's focus back on our core business. Let's use the cash that we've got within the business to grow that location-based business, the LBE business, because it's got a really bright and rosy future. And we can see really quite easily the sort of the map in front of us. And I think that's where we've got to focus our cash. It makes forecasting easier. So we've, we'll talk a little bit, I'm sure, about the reinstatement of coverage by WH Ireland. It makes their life easier. It makes us easier in terms of shareholders and giving certainty to shareholders as to what we can start seeing from our business as we go forward.
And what stage are you at in terms of spinning out these assets? Are you in discussions?
Yeah, look, we are in discussions, and we hope over the next few weeks to be able to announce that what those deals are, and how we spun them out, and ensure that Immotion still has a good position in them.
And what would you say? I'm sure there are a lot of investors that feel that the company's trading performance hasn't been reflected in the share price, particularly after today's results. What can you tell investors, and why do you think that this isn't reflected in the price?
Look, we share their pain. In the middle of the pandemic, we as the management invested nearly £500,000 at a 4 pence share price. So we feel their pain. As the largest group of shareholders in this business, we want the share price to bounce back. We want it to bounce back to the sort of pre-COVID levels. All of that said, there are 2 days in any sort of share price environment: the day you buy and the day you sell. And we're not looking to sort of sell anytime soon. So what we really want to do is get our head down, start building the business, start building on the blocks that we've put in place. And I think if we do that, then we'll really start seeing the share price will reflect what the business performance is that's being delivered today.
And of course, it's sensible to acknowledge that today is a completely different trading environment from the same period last year, let's say. How do you expect the company to navigate this new environment?
Well, I think, look, we've now got a very focused business. We're focused very much on the location-based entertainment. We know what we need to do in that environment. We're starting to really build, what I'd like to sort of say are the sort of 4 pillars of success for our business. First of all, the first pillar is really about, for the first time, we've got uninterrupted trading. And if you remember rightly, when we were, just going into the pandemic, we just about opened Mandalay Bay. I think we were sort of, within hours of opening, and everything got closed down. So for the first time ever, this business is now trading and running on all cylinders. So for us, that gives us an ability to be able to predict what our revenues are going to be. What we've also been able to do over the sort of second half of sort of 2021 and the first quarter of 2022 is to really look at our best performing locations. And we've identified those best performing locations, and we've increased capacity by putting more seats into those locations. So Sea Life London, we've increased capacity in Mandalay Bay and Odyssey. Each of those sites can now handle more traffic, and therefore more traffic is more revenue, both to the partner and to us. So I think that's it is a key sort of point in sort of where we go with all of this. And then really it's about then looking at additional sites. What can we add to, and what new sites can we put on there? And we've spoken a lot about zoos and adding zoos. Now the gestation period with zoos is slightly longer than that of the aquariums. And why is it slightly longer? Well, in the main, we're dealing with much bigger installations. We're dealing in a lot of cases, large theatre style installation conversations. And we're dealing with municipal zoos, so state-owned zoos. So all of these take slightly longer than ideally we'd like. But the important factor is once we're in, then I think we'll be in there for a long time. We'll be in there with lengthy contracts. We'll be in there with big installations, many cases with pre-shows, and a real sort of showcase in terms of what we can offer. And so I think the Gorilla Trek product experience will be a great one for zoos. It really is on message. It's a great piece of filming, allowing kids to be able to get face to face with the silverback gorilla wearing a VR headset is going to be something that I think will sell like mad. So I think once we're in there, it'll be good. I think we'll be in there for a long time. Obviously, more zoos we get, the better it becomes. So it's a big market, the zoo market.
And it seems you've also got more signings on the horizon. Do you think this will pave your intentions for this year and beyond?
The zoo market is much, much bigger than the aquarium market. So it was a market that we're very keen to go after. And I think one of the questions that I would ask is, why the zoo market and why the aquarium market? So if you stand back, both of these sort of sectors have got consistent footfall. Year in, year out, the footfall remains the same, but they've got high levels of churn. So it's not the same customer coming to the aquarium every week or every month. So as you know yourself, you might go to a zoo once a year, but you don't go 2 or 3 times a year. So what we've got is new customers coming through. So we don't have to produce new content on an ongoing basis. We don't have to come up with games that people can do. We just have to come up with something that is very, very good, fit for purpose. And also in aquariums and zoos, there isn't much technology that families can interact with. So to put an immersive solution, an immersive theatre solution with cutting edge technology into these environments, allowing users to experience something that they won't be able to experience in the zoo. So effectively enhance their experience. So whether that be swimming with humpback whales, diving with sharks, face-to-face with silverback gorillas on the gorilla trek, each of these you're never going to be able to do in that environment. So we can get an on-message product to an audience that we know is relatively consistent and give them something that they really want. So providing that our conversions numbers, and as we've matured as a business, now it's about seeking out those additional performance elements. So every 1% makes a big difference. So the more we can do that, the more we can flow to the bottom line. And I think, we touched on this before, and this is one of our sort of pillars, is it's about operational gearing. So Immotion is it's very similar to sort of a SaaS type business. Our costs are relatively fixed. So clearly once we get to a certain point and once we go past that tipping point, then every penny of contribution that we make flows to the bottom line, and more or less all of it flows into free cash flow. So this is a highly cash generative business that once you get past that tipping point can be hugely profitable. So the focus in on aquariums and zoos, big market for zoos, much bigger than aquariums. So a huge market to go after.
And do you see the size of this addressable market as evolving into an even bigger market opportunity?
Well, look, one of the things that we've learned as we launched Gorilla Trek last year, and we started talking to zoos about big installations and putting them into, buildings, whether it be 24 or 48 seater theatres. What also became clear is that we needed a plug and play solution. So one of the things that we're looking at now, and we'll probably install 1 or 2 of them this year, is a containerized 16-seater plug and play solution that will allow us to be able to just drop something into a zoo very, very quickly and allow us to move much faster. So I think the combination of large theatre style installations and a containerized solution that's a plug and play solution will really allow us to move into 2023 with confidence and speed.
Now, we see that WH Ireland, as you mentioned earlier, have resumed their analyst coverage and forecasts of Immotion. This must further add to your confidence in the business. What can you say about this?
Yeah, look, when the pandemic hit, I think we were absolutely right to suspend coverage. We had no idea, when our locations would reopen. It was really a moving feast. So we always said that we wanted to see certainty, and certainty has a huge value in my book. So as we moved into 2022, we could see that touch wood, COVID was sort of behind us. Certainly in the developed markets such as the US and the UK, which are our primary markets. So we were happy for WH Ireland to reinstate coverage. And today's coverage of that, I think, reflects their view of how robust and what a bright future the business holds.
Amazing. Well, Martin, thank you so much. And I'm sure both you, the company, and investors alike are pretty pleased with today's results.
Okay, thank you very much.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me.